I'm Kathy from the Delafield Quilt Company, and today is the first of 3 in a log cabin series. And today's block is going to be the basic log cabin block. This is going to be a trim as you go method, and the finished block size is going to be 8.5 inches by 8.5 inches. So we have a special guest on today's video. Making her very first debut is the 1938 Singer Featherweight. In case you're wondering, her name is Betty. So to make this log cabin block, I'm going to be using up a bunch of scraps that I happen to have. To start, I'm going to cut my scraps so they're 1.5 inches in width, and then I'm going to cut one square for the center that's 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. The rest of my scraps, I don't need to cut to size yet because as we go, I'm going to trim them down. You just need to make sure that as we build from the center out, that your scraps are bigger than the piece that they're being sewn to. So typically log cabin blocks have light sides on one and darker sides on another. I've chosen to follow that same. And I'm doing more of the scrappy look since I'm using scraps. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start with my first 2.5 inch by 2.5 inch block, and I'm going to start with a light piece of fabric. Remember, these are cut in strips of 1.5 inches. And then I'm going to take that, place that over, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch right along here. So I'm going to use a scant 1/4 inch as I sew, just to get a little more preciseness on my sewing. Okay, I've got my first piece sewn onto the center square, and then I'm going to press the seams towards the strips, so away from the center. Now we're ready to trim it. Make myself a little space here. So to trim this, I'm going to use the guides on my ruler just to make sure I'm getting an accurate trim. And I'm just going to line up my sides on here, and then I'm going to trim this excess. Flip it around and do the same. Okay, now we're ready for the next piece. So the next piece is going to be another white strip on the side here. So I'm going to line it up and then do another 1/4 inch. So again, we're going to press the seam away from the center square. And then again, we're going to trim it. If you've got one of those rotating cutting boards, it's probably a good time to get that out. So notice my sewing's not really perfect. So I'm just going to use my ruler to kind of trim off a little bit of the excess. I'm going to line up the lines. I know that this started off as a 1.5 inch strip, so it should now be 1.25 inches. I'm going to use those guide marks and just trim off a little bit more. Okay, now we are ready to add our first dark fabric. And to know which side to sew this on, it's going to be the largest piece is what you're going to sew it to next. The largest finished piece. Line it up, I'm going to go sew it, and be back. Okay, now that we've got our first dark piece on, again, we're going to iron it and then press the seam to the strip. And we'll go and trim it just like we've done before. Okay, now we're going to add the second piece, and we're stacking these just like we would logs on a log cabin. This one's going to go again next to the biggest finished piece. Then we're going to put the new one. I'm going to go and sew a 1/4 inch seam, and I'll be right back. Alright, so we've got our first full set of lights and darks on our log cabin blocks. Now we're going to go ahead and start again with whites. Again, our longest sewn edge is going to be where we go next to, and we're going to sew our next white one. Again, we're pressing towards the strip, trim just like before. And then we're going to add another white strip. And we're going to put it where the longest full one is, and then add this one. Okay, so we've just done 2 of the white ones, and now we're going to go back to doing the dark ones. Finding my longest unfinished strip, lay down the next. I'm going to sew this log on. And hopefully this is starting to make sense now. So we're just laying strip on strip, switching between 2 lights, 2 darks. I've got a few more rounds of those before we're done with this block. And there you have a very basic, scrappy, cut as you go log cabin block. Just a few other examples to show you. I think one of the fun things about log cabin blocks is you can arrange them in multiple different ways and get a different look each time. So I hope you liked this tutorial on this log cabin block. Please join us next week because we're going to do another log cabin, but a curvy log cabin, and we're going to actually pre-cut the pieces to match versus what we did today, which was a trim as you go. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you like it, please consider subscribing and check us out on our website at delafieldquiltco.com. Thank you.